It is always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. Busy week in Berea as we walk through mini camp. It was mandatory. One guy wasn't there, and that probably was the biggest story of the 3-day mini camp is that Amari Cooper wasn't there. So, Daryl, I want to remind everybody that It's Always Game Day in Cleveland is brought to you by Bryant and Smiley One, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling service. Daryl, your thoughts on camp, but let's start in particular with Amari Cooper not being there?
Well, first and foremost, school's out for summer. So everybody's on summer vacation now, which is great. As far as Amari Cooper goes, look, this is just part of the business of football. I really don't think that Andrew Berry is losing any sleep over this particular situation. This is, what he deals with as the top football executive, the EVP of football ops and GM. I don't know if they're going to get something done with Amari. I certainly hope so. I think Cooper has certainly shown his value. But I think it all comes down to the unknown question right now, and that is what specifically does Cooper want from the Browns, right? How many years does he want? What does he want his annual value to be to go with those years and things like that? And I know on the midday show when I was on with you guys, Thursday, you and Jeff Phelps, that we just like we're throwing numbers against the wall, just having some fun, trying to figure out what a potential extension might look like. But yeah, I mean, we don't know what Cooper specifically wants from the Browns. So before we could even have the conversation about would Barry even be willing to match or go along with, whatever Cooper's camp proposes. I did notice his agent the other day was reposting and liking articles talking about Cooper being deserving of an extension. So the agent certainly is monitoring what the public feedback is, the media feedback to what's going on. But yeah, this is, and I understand it because it's our job. But I think that we are making a much bigger deal of this than really maybe the Browns feel it is.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you too, especially because it's June, right? If this was Greenbrier and he wasn't at Greenbrier, then I'd be concerned. I'd be worried. It's your top wide receiver. Right. Yes, you'd like to see him out there gaining a little bit more chemistry with Deshaun Watson on an early June day, but at the end of the day, these two guys know how to play on the same team together, and I don't think routes are going to change, are they? Will they change the way they do route running? Are they going to run backwards instead of forwards? So I just think that, if there's a spot where it's not that big a deal, it's when your number one wide receiver misses a mini camp that really just doesn't mean a whole lot in the big picture. I mean, the coaches will probably argue with me, but I think in the big picture for a wide receiver, we all know what it's all about.
Well, I did this in the earlier podcast this week, so I won't go as extensive in our conversation here, Andy. But just real quick to look at right now, it's $20 million in the final year of his contract, so that's his annual value, right? $20 million, which ranks 20th in the NFL. DK Metcalf's annual value is $24 million, along with Nico Collins, who just signed a $73 million extension with the Houston Texans this offseason. Devontae Smith is at about $25 million in annual value. Now, this isn't guaranteed money either. This is just the totality of the contract divided by the years, and that gives you your annual value. So it is a situation where, you get big contracts. Like, for instance, I mentioned Devontae Smith, $75 million, but only $34 million of that is guaranteed. Devontae Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders got a $140 million contract, Andy. Wow. But hang on. Only $23 million of that is guaranteed, even though he has an annual value of $28 million. So, I'm not saying you go $140 million for Amari Cooper, but let's say you go between 25 and 28 million in annual value, but you don't guarantee the full amount of the contract, and you give him a 2 or a 3-year extension. Keep in mind too, he's close to turning 30. obviously that's a little bit of a factor here too. But I feel like that with the way Andrew Berry does business, that there's a way for them to come to some sort of, common ground. But, other guys that got big contracts, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, and then obviously Justin Jefferson really broke the bank with that 4-year, $140 million contract that got $110 million, guaranteed. In an annual value of about $35 million per year. And I don't know that Cooper's worth that kind of annual value, but yeah, I get it. He realizes too, I'm about to turn 30. Everybody else at my position's really getting paid, even though when he signed his extension with the Cowboys at the time years ago, he got paid right by that standard. But the marketplace has changed when it comes to value, right? So is he in the $35 million annual value stratosphere? I don't think so. And I don't mean any disrespect to Amari, but I do feel like he's in the 25, 26, or 27 million per year annual value. That he had a Pro Bowl season last year, over 1,200 yards. He's caught 14 touchdowns over a couple of years with the Browns. He's the only guy in franchise history back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons, right? So it's not like he's come to Cleveland and all of a sudden his production has fallen off a cliff. So it is a delicate balance, but if there's anyone that can work this out, I'm fully confident that Andrew Berry is going to find some very common ground, because he's very good at doing that when it comes to negotiating with agents.
All right, so you talked about the front office. What about the coaching staff when it comes to this kind of stuff? We kind of dabbled on this on the radio for a second.
Yeah.
Coaches don't like when guys don't show up. Now, there's a difference between being an NFL wide receiver and being a middle school tight end that coaches have a ton of control over when it comes to that. But coaches have a ton of control when it comes to the NFL too, especially when you're trying to figure out who to throw the ball to. So right. I'm just wondering your thoughts, because Kevin is so low key on this kind of stuff. And I truly believe when he says, hey, I can only coach the players that are out there. And when Andrew takes care of this, he'll be back out there when he's ready to go and we figure this thing out. Pretty low key, or you think he irritated some coaches or maybe even some teammates who are out there sweating, going, well, I'm out here. Why isn't he out here? I signed a contract. I'm sticking to my contract. Why can't he stick to his?
Well, a couple of things, and I certainly understand where you're coming from. I'll start with the reaction to his absence. Shrug of the shoulders, and again, that's not disrespect toward Amari. It's just like, yeah, we ain't worried about it. It's if his teammates, they want him to get more money. You know what I mean? Like they want him to get his bag. Kevin Stefanski. And the reaction from the organization, it's been very professional. They get it. They understand. He's in the final year of his contract. He is due for a raise. He's about to turn 30, wants to cash in while he can, right? It's coming off a Pro Bowl year. This is the time to strike when the iron's hot, when you're talking about pay raises. This is just business, right? I mean, in any field, right? When your contract's up, you want the opportunity, toward the end of that agreement to negotiate yourself a raise. And that's what Amari's doing. So it's been a very professional response from the Browns. No one's freaking out. Nobody's criticizing. Nobody's throwing temper tantrums. Nobody's upset. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, This is part of business at the end. We heard it from Kevin Stefanski twice this week, on Tuesday and once again here on Thursday as minicamp wrapped up. Hey, this is part of the business of the NFL. These situations come up. We're not sweating it. We love Amari. We know that when the stuff hits the fan, and he's going to be there for us and do his job. And he's been the consummate team guy since he's been here. He doesn't ruffle feathers. He is. I call him the Nick Chubb of wide receivers, Andy.
Sure,
because
absolutely.
He's a great player. He's not a prima donna. You don't see him celebrating every time he catches a pass. You don't see him.
No, he's a cool dude. I mean, he's been in the station a couple times too. So it's just like, we see him in there, especially, and we're just like, oh man, all right, I get it. Totally understand it. All right, Daryl, let's move on a little bit because we got to come back here in a second. I want your general overall view. There's questions about Myles Garrett and plenty of other things to talk about from this 3-day session where the Browns were out in Berea for minicamp. It's always game day in Cleveland. It is always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. We are brought to you by Bryant and Smiley One, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. All right, Daryl. So when we last left, we were talking a little bit about the Amari Cooper holdout, but there was another thing that happened on day 3 where it was a little concerning to fans and one player in particular. Walk us through Myles Garrett.
Yeah. So funny thing was, while I was on the air with you guys, on the other end of the facility, Myles Garrett tweaked his left hamstring. Now,
Ooh.
and he stopped. He didn't. He basically stopped and didn't do anything the rest of the day. Couple of things before everyone freaks out. Number one, he didn't get it wrapped. Like, he didn't have an ice, you know what I mean? Like, usually when guys do that, they run, they get ice packs and it gets wrapped up and all those type of things. That didn't happen. Okay. So I would say that's a fairly positive sign. And they probably just had him stop out of an abundance of caution. Right. He spent the rest of practice watching it. I saw him having a conversation with D Haslam. Another time I looked over, he was doing, had one of those stretchy exercise bands or whatever he was doing on his upper body and things like that. So relax. I get it. Anytime 95 stops practicing, it's newsworthy, understandable. It was my headline on my Brownie Bites notebook from camp. So I get it, but let's not freak out. Stefanski said after practice, quote, he'll be fine. So based on what I observed, Andy, with the situation after the fact, I don't see any reason for concern. It's not like he had to go inside and get immediate treatment. And again, it's not like, the trainer sat him down on the grass and wrapped his leg and all those type of things. And that we normally see when guys suffer those type of injuries. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. Training camp is in 6 weeks. That's when they will, by the way, little tidbit, they are going to convene in Berea before they go to the Greenbrier.
So what are you saying? So camp will start in Berea. They'll do a couple days there, and then they'll go one day?
For one day, they're going to meet in Berea. I think that's where they'll do all their intake and all that kind of stuff. And then, all that, weight measurements, that type of stuff that they usually do.
Mm-hmm.
Probably they'll do the conditioning drill there, assuming they still do a conditioning drill, and then they'll hop on the plane and head down to West Virginia for camp. So Stefanski told us that today too, after camp wrapped up. So just a little piece of information there that we did not know, because I just assume, hey, that they would meet in Berea. Just so they.
How long will they be in Greenbrier this year? I know you guys talked a little bit about Greenbrier too.
I think it's 9 days. Stefanski did mention they're going to practice 5 days in a row, and then they'll take a day off, and then practice a couple more days, and then head on up to Cleveland and get ready for the preseason opener against the Green Bay Packers, and then the following week they'll.
So basically, the entire preseason kind of feels like it's in Greenbrier.
Yeah,
before
the bulk of it.
Yeah.
Then the Vikings will come for 2 preseason training camp practices, joint practices, and then they will take a day off and then play their preseason game down at Cleveland Brown Stadium. So I will let fans know this, because I know they're going to freak out. I anticipate fewer open dates for training camp this year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add. That was my next point. So go ahead. What? Like how many?
I don't have a number. I'm just just making an educated guess. They're spending an extra day or two.
Well,
Greenbrier. And then here's the other thing. I'll be honest with you. Depending what their construction timeline is for the mixed use development, because that was another thing I mentioned in my notes. The last house has been cleared out. The hazardous materials contractors went in and abated all that today. And as I was leaving the facility, the city of Berea protection crew, the demo protection, when you demo a building, they spray water on it to keep the dust and in case there's a fire, it pops up or whatever. That crew was on hand along with some machinery was coming in. So I think that house got either got taken down today or will be taken down first thing on Friday. But the point of me mentioning that is the last remnants of that neighborhood. And the 16 acres that they have acquired will have been cleared. And then it goes into when can they put shovels in the ground and start construction on that $200+ million mixed use development project? And the reason why this is relevant to training camp, if I'm a Browns fan, I'm not sure if it's going to be tougher being out in Berea if all that construction is in fact underway. You see what I'm saying?
So yeah, but I think what you're doing though, Daryl, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're trading time now for time and time down the road, right?
Possibly, yeah.
Going to Greenbrier because of all the construction makes total sense this year.
You know what fans are going to love for training camp in the future? Once they get this complex built, they're going to be a parking deck. There's actually going to be parking on site for training camp. How cool is that going to be? Because, right? I mean, they used to do. Do
you know where will that be? And here's my other question: are they? So the street that's there next to the facility, is that street going away?
Street.
What?
That I don't know. I do know on the filings. I do know on the filings for the $15 million state grant for the rec center and the community field, they gave both of those facilities Pearl Street addresses. So now I know for paperwork purposes, when you're requesting money for things like you have to have addresses attached to it. That's not to say that ultimately that doesn't, get changed or whatever. But as of now, from a legal perspective, they're getting Pearl Street addresses. We'll see if that ultimately happens. I know the warehouse across the street from the facility, that's going to get demolished at some point and be replaced.
To the right or to the left?
If you're looking across Lou Groza Boulevard.
If you're leaving the complex.
If you're looking, if you're looking straight across the street at the facility, that warehouse is on the left-hand side. It's that pinkish color warehouse.
Gotcha. It's on the same side of the street as the facility or across?
Yeah, across the street. It's the one that they use for storage and where they do their media shooting and stuff, like their media day shoots and stuff like that. The scoreboard stuff and the photos and team photos and things like that. So I think that's eventually going to be going away as well. So again,
where is the parking deck going, Daryl?
It's going to go somewhere in that third. I haven't seen the actual master plan. I just know the elements that are being included in this project and how much it's going to cost. And I know the timetable. It's going to take about 18 months to 24 months to build completely. But it could be a blessing this year that there are fewer open practices. Again, it all depends. I think the Browns would love nothing more than to begin construction and break ground later this summer on this project. But they still have a lot of stuff they have to go through as well. They
just a quick yes or no. Are they adding another practice field?
No, they have 4.
So
they don't need another. They're gonna add a multi-use community field. So it's going to be accessible for the general public and community events and stuff like that, BW and Berea and all that. So it's think of them just putting in one of their high school, they have their program they do where they pay for high school fields. Yeah. Think of like that's what they're going to put in, something like that.
I have an idea for that. I'll tell you when we come back. It's always game day in Cleveland. It's always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I am Andy Baskin. We are brought to you locally by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. So, Daryl, when we left, because I still have other things I want to talk about.
You have big ideas.
Well, I'm just saying, if this community field that's going to go in, is it going to look like a high school stadium?
I don't know if I don't think it's actually going to be built like a high school stadium. Again, because I haven't seen the plans. I just know what
it would be cool if the Browns had a high school game of the week or 2 games of the week. If they wanted to, they could play 2 on Friday.
I will when we're done with this podcast, I will text somebody that very suggestion and I will gladly give you credit for it.
Well, I just think it's a good idea, especially,
that would be because you know what? How about
I'm going to tell you exactly who should probably play there depending on how many seats they want to put in, but keep going.
How about this? Because they do for their for like a lot of their some of their like social media and web programming they do. I know they do like a high school. You vote on the high school game of the week.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
I wonder if they could do it in advance and then be like, "Hey, pick the 2 teams or pick the games we invite to our complex in Berea to watch play the
Right.
Cleveland Browns game of the week. I wonder if you
Yeah.
could do something. Could you do something
Well,
like that in high school football?
do I do that, or have I covered something like that, or what are you asking?
I'm asking. Like, let's say the
Absolutely, you could
Browns
do. So you would
could
do
that
it. You would do it as a neutral site game, but let's be honest. St. Ignatius goes all the way out to Byers Field to play, and it all depends on how many seats they want to put in. And Byers holds what,
yeah,
10,000.
I can't imagine the Browns are putting in like building a 10,000 seat football stadium.
No, but let's just say they put in a 5,000 seat, or put seats from. Although, why would you want to do that when Finney's on the other side, right? Like Finney's 2 minutes away, and if they,
Yeah.
I don't know that you'd want to do that because why couldn't you hold the Browns game of the week at Berea on Friday, or at well, it is Berea, but at Finney on the campus of Baldwin Wallace.
So
And
you
then
just
you could
poke
kinda do
holes
that.
in your own idea.
Well, I am and I'm not. It would not, because I keep thinking about this new soccer stadium that we're talking about in downtown Cleveland, and they're talking about playing high school soccer games there and trying to get soccer into where a future professional women's soccer stadium would be. I'm an idea, man. I just keep thinking.
I know. I don't know how feasible that soccer stadium thing is. Like,
It's not that hard. I'm really telling you, as a guy that lived through
$200
the
million
very first. For how much?
$200 million, that's a lot of money for a soccer stadium.
Depends on what you're going to get out of it and what you get back, and tickets and who's playing. I can tell you this, Daryl.
It didn't cost that much in Columbus, I don't think.
What, Crew Stadium, the original?
No, the one that the Haslams build. I'm looking it up right now. Hang on. What's the name of that stadium?
Lower.com Field. You should congratulate me for knowing that off the top of my head.
I'm impressed. Sorry. Walking and chewing gum is not a thing I'm very good at. Oh, I was wrong. Okay. Never mind. I take it back. It was $314 million.
Well, no, but what's interesting is go back and look at what was the cost of the original Crew Stadium that's at the State Fairgrounds.
Oh, yeah, they probably built that for $10 million. Because
I don't even think they paid.
Like,
yeah, that was built. I was just leaving Columbus, so it was like
in the 1990s, wasn't it?
When did I come home? It was probably built 90. I was in Columbus, so it would have been 90, 95, 96, somewhere in there. I think they played 2 seasons at Ohio Stadium and then moved over to their own field. And it was such a big deal. And I looked at it and I'm like, this would be a fantastic high school football stadium.
By the way, my gut tells me there's going to be some lower.com field inspiration in the Brook Park Dome proposal. That's just my gut feeling.
You're saying that the way it looks, the architecture of it? Because it's pretty cool. That stadium is pretty amazing.
Not only the architecture, but the configuration, like how close fans are to the field and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, look, this is what's.
Why wouldn't you think that? I mean, they've already built one stadium. And you take the best of what you see in other stadiums and you build your own stadium. And
they've admitted they built that stadium in Columbus too small. Like it
does look too small.
Yeah, they are currently researching ways that they can expand it without, messing up. Yeah, like they realized that they should have built something a little bigger. And look, I mean, how often do you hear an ownership group admit that they made a mistake, right? I have to give them, I have to give them credit, like that they're willing to say, yeah, we did a great thing in Columbus. It's beautiful. We love it. Our fans love it. But yeah, hindsight being 2020, we should have probably made it a little bigger. Like, I think that that's great. And as they're going through their stadium process here in Cleveland, I mean, they learned from that experience in Columbus doing that stadium project. And obviously from the original stadium project they had back in 2013, 2014, when they put together that $125 million renovation. But like, I can't wait to see the final plans for the Dome and First Energy Stadium, Cleveland Browns Stadium, rather. I honestly think it would benefit the Browns more right now if they just release the art, like whatever the architect has come up for both of those projects. Because right now, all the discourse is surrounding the amount of money these projects cost. And if you really want to get fans excited about what you're doing, get some pretty pictures out there for people to ooh and ah over, and then really debate, okay, which plan looks better? Which plan looks like it feels better? Is it the lakefront or is it the domes?
Why even play this game? Why just forget it? Let's just move to the dome and somebody is it Ricky? I gotta find it. There was a great tweet about. I will give them credit in the next podcast we do. Please don't let me forget. Just saying, when you think about great stadiums around the country, none of them are based on looking at a lake. They're all about where they are, right? Who's looking at water? By the way, you can't see the water unless you're standing and looking out the back of the north stands, and there's windows you have to look out of. You talk about Wrigleyville. You talk about what is it, Yawkey Way, but in Boston. You talk about Utah Street. You talk, and I'm just doing baseball.
Progressive Field in
Progressive Field. I mean, just any arena. Then I'm just trying to think of some other places from around. With the exception of like Kansas City, which is just kind of out there with 2 parking lots.
Yeah.
No one's talking about the great view of the lake. Where?
Yeah, Patriots in Foxborough, which is in the middle of nowhere.
Patriots in Foxborough. Perfect. There's another one.
It's all about location, location, location.
Atlanta. Look what Atlanta did. I mean, they're building districts around Dallas. Oh my God, Dallas boomed. And everything is right in one spot. They're in Dallas.
By the way,
everything is right next to each other.
Yeah, for all the people, they're not going to play in Cleveland anymore if they move to Brook Park. Guess what? The Jets and the Giants don't even play in the city of New York. They don't play in the state of New York. They play in frickin' New Jersey. Like, come on. Why are we getting wrapped up in that? So, but yeah, I really hope.
I mean, Philly's a big complex of all sporting stuff, but there's also some stuff around there. But I'm just,
that's outside. Yeah, they are, I think, southeast of downtown.
Yeah. And there's a lot of freeways there, and there's kind of, like there's shipping yards over there too, and there's all kinds of stuff. So I don't know. I was just thinking about that. Daryl, quickly in 30 seconds, just give me your biggest headline from camp.
Deshaun Watson looks good to go. He on 2 of the 3 days, he appeared to have a full workload. No no injury, like no residue from that. You never saw him once, grab the shoulder or, move the shoulder around or anything. No discomfort, anything like that. We got to see him let it rip a couple of times, which is good because we had not seen that yet.
No, I saw some of that video. He looked impressive. I thought it looked good.
Yeah. Kevin Stefanski made the joke. He had one deep ball. I think he threw to Elijah Moore that was incomplete. And Stefanski was like, yeah, that wasn't complete. And then he was like, but I get what you're saying. He got it down the field and it was on target and on time and things like that. So to me, that's the headline that Deshaun Watson is absolutely on track to be good to go for the upcoming season. And, and the Browns, they desperately need it because I really believe that how he goes is how this football team is going to go in 2024.
All right. It's always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. We look forward to talking to you all preseason long now as we get ready. The next thing that's huge, though, will be Greenbrier and the team reassembling now that the minicamp is over. He's Daryl. I'm Andy Baskin. Evan O'Brien is our great producer, and he's been doing a fantastic job. We can't say more than tip of the cap. You're outstanding, my friend. So thank you for watching. We appreciate it. And, of course, thank you for watching on YouTube and listening on the Odyssey app. It's always game day in Cleveland.